friends, we're back for Black and Curious. I'm Kendra.
What up, what up? It is Deja. How y'all doing?
Hello. Welcome. If you've never
Welcome,
been here
welcome.
before, we do a cross section of pop culture in real life. And today we're coming to you with a news and pop culture sort of segment. If you've been here before, you know that I dropped the timestamps below in the description box so you can hop around to your heart's content. Go
Please
ahead
do.
and like the video and subscribe to the channel if this content sounds good to you. Let's get into it.
Girls. So straight out of the gate, let's talk about some of the things that are going on in the news as of late. I'm not sure if you all saw this, but sometime either this week or last week, Biden put a tweet out to call in Trump to help him in finalizing the border patrol bill. And there has been a lot of criticism around it because they're like, I mean, what is the purpose? This man has never been a real politician and is not in office in any capacity, serves on no boards. He's just a tyrant who wants to be a dictator in his next if he wins the next election.
Okay, so here's a little bit of background with this thing. So essentially, Biden and the Republicans have been negotiating this deal. It is very Republican forward. Everybody was on board. It was like a bipartisan legislation. Everybody was pretty much on board until Trump was like, nah, basically, I need to be able to run on this. I need to be able to run on the fact that Biden hasn't done anything for the border. And so he tanked the entire bill. So basically, this is Biden saying, hey, we had a deal. And if you would get on board, then we would continue to have a deal. So this is a political maneuver, essentially, of like, hey, I was working with your people and then you told them no. So now I got to work with you. And it's not that he actually expects Trump to do that. It feels more like him being able to say, I had something, I had a good thing going, but you're
And you
playing
came in and effed it
politics.
up.
So now I have to play politics back with you. That's
Mm.
what it is.
Because I was like, girl, what is going on here?
It's a mess.
Quite frankly, it's very much a mess. Moving right along,
Yeah, look.
because that story is probably going to continue to develop.
Mm,
I don't know if you all have been keeping up with the Daryl George case out of Texas, the young man who was basically taken off of his sport because he has locks. And so his coach basically told him that he wasn't going to be able to play, and then it went beyond the high school to like the local government, and they recently have ruled in favor of the coach and the school district, stating that the school district can define whether or not a male child's hair is too long. And I'm just like, this ruling is very racist.
yeah.
Like,
Um,
because they don't do that to the white boys playing the same sport if
yeah,
they
hard
chose
agree.
to have long hair like that. So why is it now all of a sudden so important? And not only that, but him having locks. He most of the time, the images that I saw, he had him like um put in like barrel braids. I forgot what the technical
I know what you mean.
name is, but the hair was pulled up off of his neck.
Hmm.
Like, obviously, when he's playing and has the helmet on, he cannot put his hair up like that in the back because you can't put the helmet on top of it. But you have a lot of people, a lot of men that are in the NFL that have locks, and they just let the locks hang down the back.
Yeah. And I
What's the
think technically
problem?
the locks are a part, then become a part of your helmet. Any hair or anything outside of that is part of your helmet. So people can grab and whatever else. Um,
True.
I feel like these stories come out every few, well, like once a year, of especially some private school somewhere, starting chaos and telling young black men what
Lots of
they can do with their
negativity.
hair, or young black women what they can do with their hair. And I think it's ridiculous, but it's a part of a larger trend of what's going on in these Republican states, including the one I live in, who has now decided that at the college level, basically, University of Florida dismantled all of their DE&I department. They fired everybody. And basically they're saying it's not important. Like, we're not doing that anymore. In to be in alignment with DeSantis and all of his objectives, we won't be doing that anymore. And I also heard today that one of, I think it was a senators or a congressman, has basically said not only are we not going to be teaching any of your Black history stuff, like we're not doing any of that. We're actually going to affirmatively change history. So, like, not even not teach it, but we're going to misteach it to say that the slaves were actually compensated, and they just were not.
I'm like,
They
this,
just weren't.
like, what world do we live in that this type of stuff is just willy-nilly happening? And like, I'm asking this question as though I don't know the answer. I know the answer is that you have our generation of people that are just like, we didn't survive so many different things. We don't know what to do.
Yeah.
We are just as much in shock as the rest of everybody.
Yeah.
But like, we're
100%.
the adults now, so we're supposed to be out here changing the laws and fixing things. And meanwhile, like the boomers and the Gen Xers are like off to the races with the racism.
Here's the thing.
Like,
I have a unpopular opinion. I'm very much like fight fire with fire. So, like, especially with the book bans, I'm like, if I had a kid in school, I would be just a terror. Every single thing I felt upset my Black child, I would be up there. I would be like, this is upsetting. Black people are being subjugated in this book. That is upsetting. So if we can't read what we want to read, y'all can't read what y'all want to read either, and nobody gonna be reading.
but you know, the gag is the children don't read anyway. Half these
also that, but all that to say, like, you know, some of this is like, I feel like one side tries to take the high road and the other side is in hell. So it's like, you know,
girl,
you know,
literally, the other side is in hell.
literally,
Okay?
literally, there is no high road when your opponent is in hell. So there's that. Let's move on. The New York Times scandal. You wrote that one.
Man, this is so insane. The short of it, and we'll put the link down in the bottom, where they're talking about it. But the Free Press reported on this scandal where there was a New York Times writer who was formerly an IDF soldier who wrote the initial story about the horrific things happening to children in Israel. She is the leading cause as to why they said that they had to go in and you know, they weren't gonna give the Palestinian people any food or shelter or help or any of the sort, because she was the one that basically purported this Hamas thing, and it has now come forward that none of it was true.
Yeah,
she basically made up this whole thing and wasn't even a journalist from the start. So
I saw snippets of
very
this
much
story.
propaganda.
I saw snippets of this.
It's really crazy.
And the propaganda of it all. However, this is not the first time the New York Times has been caught up in a scandal like this. A few years ago, they did this podcast, I believe it was called Caliphate, where they allegedly talked to some, what do you call it, extremists, some like, God, why can't I remember the name? Anyway, some like Muslim extremists, and talking about the terrorist acts that he had done and or terrorist training camps he had been a part of. And
fake news,
that
literally
actually came back as false as well. So it seems like there's an issue over at the New York Times that they need to do a better job with vetting what their journalists are saying and the sources that they are using for these things. And relatedly, but a related aside, this is going to even become more important as people start using AI a lot more to produce these stories. And I actually saw on Twitter the other day where people were talking about like how there aren't even that many journalist jobs anymore. A lot of these journalism jobs are for training the AI models to be able to write like a journalist. So this is going to become even more important. And we, as the public, are going to have to be more vigilant in making sure that we know true from false. And maybe actually doing the extra step.
You don't know none of it to be real.
Right, but that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Like, you have to do the extra step to like verify from a legitimate, you know, like, but also like, what is legitimate media if everybody's using AI. I don't know. And I don't know that everybody is using AI, but I'm just saying, like, we're going to have to get some thick skin about propaganda and the like, which is something that I don't think Americans have always done.
Mm-mm. It's all
Scary.
going to hell in a handbasket, as
It's
the
all
elders would
scary.
say.
Let's move on to lighter
um,
news. Tom Lemon is getting his money
a
teased.
win.
A
A win is a win.
win is a win.
And he got a new show. A win is a win.
A win is a win. I love this for him because it seemed like they were setting him up to fail, putting him on in the mornings when he told the people he don't do mornings, putting him on with that lady so he could offend that lady first thing in the morning. And Don said, not so fast. Not so fast. You can go ahead and pay out this over $24 million of my contract and I will be on my way. Thank you so much.
Like, y'all, these contracts is amazing. Because what? Who knew that they were making this kind of money?
He was in prime time. And you have to remember he took over. I don't know if Cuomo was at the 8 o'clock and Don was at 9. I think Cuomo was at 8 and Don was at 9. So when Cuomo drops out of the equation, it's like it's just Don. The people are just there for Don.
True. No lies. It's so crazy, but either way, a win is a win.
A win is a win.
In tragic news.
Yeah, another of our favorite news adjacent folks.
Well, I mean, she's actually a trained journalist. I want to say she's she was a disc jockey, but a journalist nonetheless. Yeah. Wendy Williams, man, watching the snippets that I have seen of this documentary, she just seems like she is out of her mind, and like everybody around her is taking advantage of her being out of her mind. And it's not fair. I hate to see it.
Same. And my thing is, I'm not watching it. I'm not watching it. And I know people hate watch things all the time, or they watch things to find out what's going on. But sometimes for me anyway, sometimes I have to draw the line in the sand. And from the piece of previews that I saw, I don't want to see Wendy like that. And do I agree with everything that she did? No, but there was a time when I had no cable in law school. And I was a pretty avid Wendy Williams watcher. And I watched her for a long time. And even like, if I was working from home or whatever, I'd turn her on and see what's going on or whatever. But it's like, I don't like to see nobody go out like that. I want to see nobody go out like that.
The worst for me is that damn publicist. Because, girl, you've been working with this lady all this long before she started to go on the decline. You know good and well that she is not in her right mind. Yeah. So to carry her on like she's gonna go do all these appearances and do all these things as though she's the normal Wendy Williams that we've all known her to be, isn't like, that's abuse. Yeah. And I like, she's come out and said, and the publicist is the one that you see in a lot of the clips that have gone viral on social media. But she's come out and said, like, this is not what I signed on for, blah, blah, blah. Girl, you just saying this now because you're trying to save face because you look crazy. Yeah. We all can see that this woman is not mentally stable. And she's here you are trying to prop her up to walk red carpets and carrying on. She's like, make it make sense.
I was listening to the Justice podcast with Politics and Fashion, Tashira and her best friend Margot. And I'll leave the link down below. And Margot did a solo episode talking about Wendy Williams. And she was kind of like, I mean, if she's not well enough to manage herself and her funds, is she well enough to work? And I have to wonder the same thing.
No. And like, you have all these people around her that are trying to get her to work.
It's giving very exploitative. It's giving very Britney Spears part 2. It's like, why do you have her down to Vegas dancing and carrying on when she allegedly isn't well enough to manage her own affairs? Like, and it feels very much the same. And Lifetime also ought to be ashamed because y'all knew that lady was not right. And apparently some people have been coming out to say that this is to say something more about the conservatorship you know, this is about
the dangers
showing
of
what
it,
a
yeah.
conservatorship looks like. And I'm like, you don't have to do that on the backs of other people. Like, you don't have to do that on the backs of Wendy Williams. I'm sorry. Especially as
And
somebody,
not only that,
you
we don't
know,
see any conservatorship stuff. We don't see the person that's doing it. We don't see any of that. What we see is all these people that are trying to pull from her.
absolutely. So I like it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to
I'm
cut you
not
off.
watching it. There is no part of me that even wants to see what's going on with that. I want Wendy to be well and as well as she can be at this point, and to enjoy what remains of her life, however long or short that is. That's what I want from people in general, Wendy Williams included, you know?
I agree.
So, anyways, that's about it for now. Drop down in the comments, let us know what you think. Did you watch the Wendy Williams documentary? Catch us up if you didn't, or if you did, because we didn't. And in the meantime, like, comment, subscribe, and we will be back the next time. Bye-bye.
Bye, friends.